Oh yeah, I didn't know we were on doing an online thing. Yes, hello everybody. You got me on that one. I didn't know it'd be immediate.
Yeah, that's what I love about creativity, is the fact that, you know, sometimes I think that when we bring it to life, it's even though it's in our moment of the situation, we still, you know, are thinking about those who are going to receive it.
There's some truth to that, definitely. I mean, sometimes when you're creating music, you'll have somebody in your head that you think about that would really, oh, I know so and so is going to really dig this. You know what I'm saying?
Thrown stones. There, you know, you're showing the world here. There's a message that needs to be lived out here, and while we're doing it, let's raise some funds for people that are in Ukraine.
Well, yeah, the you know what, lyrically, that was written by Joe Reddice, who you might know from Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and he was in the Suite and Dio Disciples. And I also did an album with him called Heaven and Earth. We co-wrote some things, and we were in a band together for a short while. But I sent him the track, and I said, do your thing, man, you know, because he really likes to work autonomously and just do his own thing. Yeah. And he came back with this anti-war message, and it was just before the Ukraine was invaded by Russia, and it couldn't be more, you know, topical, obviously. And so when I went to make a video for it, I wanted to incorporate some of that in it, and so you'll see some elements of war footage in there. And he couldn't be down here. There's a destruction with all these TV screens, and actually put him in the TV screen in the video. So when you check out the video, that's why he's not with the actual players in the room. But we, you know, we've made the best of a situation there. And yeah, and through running, I have an event some people are aware of and some people aren't. It's called Ultimate Jam Night that I started in 2015. And I have 45 to, I've had as many as 100 professional musicians. Wow. It was weekly, but we've actually did a show this year to raise awareness and funds for the World Central Kitchen for the refugees from Ukraine. And we in fact had a family that just had their home bombed out in Bucha, and they were relocated to Los Angeles. So we invited them down and had them come on stage, and the father talked, and their little 7-year-old girl went up and sang "We Are the World."
Oh my God. Oh my God. See,
it was heavy.
that's those moments that you hold on to forever, and then that leads to another inspiration and influence of more music ahead.
Yeah, it was. There wasn't a dry eye in the house for that. Definitely, we had a couple Ukrainian performers as well there for that particular show. But that's how that all, and it all kind of together with the song "Throwing Stones," which the message is how long will it take before we grow? I mean, we as humans on this planet, we started by throwing stones at each other, and now we're launching missiles at each other. You know, it's just, when are we going to learn? It's a, you know, we live in a very tenuous, you know, I'm very stressed daily, just what's going on in the world right now. And with this upcoming election and all this stuff going on, it's just, it's a daily thing. I try not to think about it too much, but it's like right there. It's what's going on. It's all very, very important. What's going on in Iran, everywhere.
Well, yeah, and I love the way the musicians are stepping up, and because I mean they did back in the latter part of the 1960s. You know, those songs and stuff like that are still a major part of what we do today.
Yeah, Four Dead in Ohio. You know, I grew up and started discovering music in the late 60s, and actually when I was a little boy, was sitting on the hill in Griffith Park here in Los Angeles, watching a Vietnam era riot with the police, and I saw like, you know, the hippies and all those people like throwing cans and the police charging. And I was like, it was like watching a remake, you know, like they do those historical Civil War remakes and you do it, but it was a real battle was going on with, and, you know, and I lived civil rights movement I lived through. And yeah, it has that kind of feeling right now for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, the lyrics inside the song, I think the where it really got my attention was "We are not the monsters," and I went, "You're right. We are not the monsters." No,
you know what? And we're not. And love is the answer. You know, if people could just, you know, step outside themselves and just and treat everybody the same. It's like, anyway, I don't want to get on a whole, a lot of people say musicians should not get into politics, and they slam Bono and people like that, and Bruce Springsteen or whoever. But you know what? We have a platform, and, I think it's important. I don't know if you got to see my video for my remake of Bjork's Army of Me, but what I decided to do, and that was a cover, obviously, and of her hit from 1995, and that was a track that I found that I did with my late friend Pat Torpy from Mr. Big, and my friend Lanny Cordola, who happens to be over in Pakistan right now getting his girls out of Afghanistan. Wow. When that went down, he started a school for young women learning how to play music and guitar, and then you saw what happened there. And anyway, him and I and Pat we get together all the time and just record ideas, and we started talking about Army of Me, and we started jamming on it. I'm not even playing the bass part of the track, but I found that track and I go, man, this should be finished. And you know what? When I went to make the video for it, it was right when Ruth Ginsburg passed away. Wow. And I decided I have 3 animated army that are dressed like Antifa of Ruth Ginsburg's marching on Washington, because I believe there's still so many people that believe in her beliefs of human rights and women's rights. And you'll actually see at the end, there's a woman's chest where she wrote, "My body, my choice." And, people were saying, oh, is that about mass? No, it's about, a human should have the rights over their own body. No government, in my opinion, no government should tell you what to do. I think you need to have advice from medical professionals or whatever, and family, and if you're a religious person, your priest or whoever, that's important. But I don't think the government should get into our personal rights. Pretty soon they're going to take away contraceptives, and they're going to if you're gay, you can't, how it's going to go. It goes that way. And I'm kind of worried about it. I've actually spent most of the summer in Europe. I'm going, I can see myself living in Mallorca. And I'm, I tell people, I go, listen, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I belong to the common sense party. Yeah. If it that's the way I go. And I think somebody should run a campaign under that, that CSP is the name of, instead of GOP, CSP is your party. And people might go onto it. They might go, yeah, because libertarian sounds too, heady. Yeah. I think something about this country, and I actually have a song that we did in the 90s called Dumb It Down. And that was even back then about how I really feel like our country has been dumbed down with our educational system. And I mean, what are we, like 26th or 28th in industrialized nations for education? I mean, people graduate high school and they can't even put a sentence together. As witness from some of our speeches I've heard, but especially recently with Herschel. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. How about that down there?
I look at myself, because I grew up, I grew up Kennedy was my, I was a little boy, obviously, but when Kennedy was assassinated, I grew up around that whole era, and we've changed so much. It's in not a good way, unfortunately, but of course, there's things going on back then too that weren't as publicized, because now we have social media and everybody talks. But it's a double-edged sword. Social media has also become a big evil, because it's really easy to disseminate bad information that actually costs people's lives. That's right. I really truly believe that, because the information about COVID was held back when it first came out, and all that, and held back, and misinformation was out there. I mean, I saw quotes from people on their deathbed saying, I wish I would have never listened to them. I wish I would have gotten the vaccine or whatever. Yeah. And I really believe that. So social media can be a really evil thing. And the same thing with TV. I mean, you're allowed to, what was it? Fox, they went to trial, and it said, well, we're not really news. We're an entertainment. So we can say whatever we want. Yep. I'm like, God, and all these people believe it, so, again, I'm not, I'm common sense. It just kind of just all fell together that way. And when I did this record, this album, I had no intentions of doing a solo record. I took a bad situation with the pandemic. I'm locked up. I go, hey, I'm going to start writing again and composing. In my past, I've been a main writer with the band House of Lords, and it's QRIII. I was a writer on every track, and I wanted to bring in keyboards with that, and we kind of changed the sound a little bit. And but throughout my career, if I'm in a band or in that kind of situation where I can collaborate songwriting, I'm in on it. So when I started this, I just go, I'm going to write songs, art for art's sake, so to speak, no particular agenda. So on the album, you're going to hear a lot of different styles. You're going to hear funk, you're going to hear progressive, you're going to hear jazz fusion. I even have a song that's on there called Cradle of the Sun Lorelei that's like a Robert Plant, Alison Krauss type song. I actually have a full-on Celtic piece on there. There's two covers on my album. The second cover is a song, which is the Celtic one, called Darkness, Darkness, and it's a song that came out in the late 60s by the Youngbloods, Jesse Colin Young. And I've always loved that song. It's something about it. It really reached to me, and I've always loved that. When I pick up an acoustic guitar, that's like one of the songs I'll just noodle around and start singing.
Wow.
I only did it, but I wanted to do it full on Celtic with a fiddle and balalaika and those kind of instruments. And I have 3 drummers doing tribal drumming on it. And the singer nailed it is a guy named David Victor, who toured and played with the band Boston, who I'm sure everybody knows about. Tom Schultz, he was in that band, and we had a band together years ago. But he's a great vocalist, and on the album I have a lot of different singers. I mean, I've sung myself on a lot of the albums I've done as a background singer, but I didn't want to diminish my own songs with me singing. So I mean, I could do a good job, but I mean, why not get the best? I've been very, very blessed to have made so many friends over the years that are great musicians. And through Ultimate Jam Night, I've had well over 2,000 guests, and a lot of them recur, and I become close friends with them. And I discovered a singer named Whitney Ty, who's on 3 of my songs. I approached her first about doing Army of Me, and then we became good friends, and we co-wrote one of the songs on the album. And she sings on my newest single, which is called Giving Up the Ghost. And I have a video out for that. I actually have 4 videos from the album out, and people can find that. Just go to chuckwright.com, and that's Wright, like the Wright brothers, W. So yeah, I always wanted to fly, not because of my name, but for some reason I was always into the Air Force. I did, but music changed my total direction in life. After 8 years in military school, second command of the battalion, I did my first gig playing a UCLA fraternity party, and I got paid $75, drank beer, and the girl thought it was cute, and I decided, hey, this is what I'm going to do. And, go to the Air Force next.
One of the things that in listening to your story and your journey is you are a craftsman when it comes to music. Especially when you were talking about the 3 drummers with the tribal beat and stuff like that. I mean, it's not just putting together a song. You get in there and you craft that piece of art.
Well, I definitely kind of went with a lot of the music on the record for a cinematic feel. And I know people have told me that the album itself feels like a concept record. And even with it being so diverse, it still all makes sense. It's like telling a story, but the story's kind of vague. And but there's a lot of depth, and there's a lot of I hate to say sadness in it, but there's some darker elements lyrically and musically, moody, but there's also a lot of hope in it. And that's why my good friend Glenn Wexler, who is a world-renowned photographer and illustrator and all that, he's done Van Halen and Yes, Rush. I'm a graphic designer, so I figure I'm just gonna do my own thing, and I came up with ideas. And then he reached out to me and said, hey, listen, man, I love because I've been sending him tracks as I'm building. We're super best friends, and he goes, hey, I'd love to do your album cover. I've got a great idea. So he sent me some ideas, and we settled on this last idea, which is a vulture leaving the desolation of a desert as an eclipse is finishing. So
oh my God,
vultures traditionally represent death, and we're coming out of pandemic, and the vulture's flying away. The eclipse is over. So it's even though it has a kind of a dark characteristic to it, it's definitely about hope.
Wow.
And about the future.
Wow. So how do people find out more about with you raising funds and stuff like that for those in Ukraine and the projects that you're doing? Because I mean, you're very actively involved. It's not just a musician that's sitting on a bus. I mean, you're really involved.
Yeah, I hate being on a bus. I like doing my flyouts. And this whole summer I've just been going to Europe playing with the legends of classic rock, which are guys from different bands like Ozzy Osbourne and Wright and White Lion, and we have a thing that we do, but we've been all over, and it's nice not being on a tour bus. But no, as far as what you can do, the World Central Kitchen, I have found, really is a place where they'll make sure that the money is spent on feeding the refugees coming out of Ukraine, and they have place, and also they're all over the world, but a lot of their concentration right now is for Ukraine, to help those people. Other than that, just vote for someone that's going to help.
That's right. So
vote
true.
For people that aren't going to take away your rights. That's all I can say. Vote for people that aren't going to ban books. And I mean, I just hope to God we don't become Gilead in Handmaid's Tale, because all arrows are pointing that way.
So true, so true. I mean, what I wanted to also say is that, I mean, you have metal here that has content and purpose. That to me is there. I mean, that's moving forward. That's moving not just yourself, but a generation forward.
Well, I guess it's forward thinking. The record, I just would like to point out, you said metal. It's really not a metal record at all. It's so not. I know a lot of people probably know me from Alice Cooper or Quiet Riot, or I did a Ted Nugent record, or Gregg Allman, or all these different people I've worked with through the years that are more towards rock, but it's not. I mean, I was in a flamenco band for 2 years. I produced reggae records. I mean, I'm as wide as you can get musically, and I think that's reflected on this album. So I know a lot of my ends with interviews and things like that have been, oh, he's this rock guy and all that. And I'm kind of trying to dispel that about me as a musician and as a person, and I'm just trying to do what I can. I mean, my show in Ultimate Jam Night was started because DJs were taking over LA and our music scene was disappearing, and I decided, what, we really need a place where musicians can socialize and meet. And I've watched some young players grow from a busker. There's one guy, Derek Day, who was a busker that we saw on Santa Monica, and we brought him in. He's been playing. He gets discovered. He just sang lead in front of Dave Grohl and the Motley Crue guy.
Oh my God!
I mean, it's and that's my reward. I do not charge a dime for people to come see this show. I mean, I couldn't. It has cost me money sometimes. We did have a sponsor, but they stopped doing local promotions, which was Monster. They stopped doing that, and so it cost me money. We've cut back on it, and we have one more coming up December 6th, which we're going to celebrate all the guitar heroes like Eddie Van Halen and Jimi Hendrix and Stevie Ray Vaughan, people like that. So I'll try to round up all the best guitar players, and then we'll think about how we're going to deal with it next year. But I try to do what I can. I mean, yeah, I've never, like, for me, this album, I want to be my legacy, not something I did in 1983. Yeah, that became a #1 album and all that, but that's not what I'm about. Yep. I'm about how this album speaks to you. So I think people, it's all I care about is people listen. I'm not trying to make money on this thing. That the whole revenue stream for artists is selling product. It's now become a promotional item for people to go out on tour, pretty much. Right. But which I can't do because I need Roger Waters' budget to go tour this thing. When you listen to it, I have 41 guests on my album, and friends, and most of them are from bands you would know, like Tesla and Asia and Dream Theater and on and on and on. But to pull this off, I would definitely want it to be immersive, like speaking of Roger Waters, like that kind of Pink Floydian immersive experience, and with a lot of musicians and singers to pull it off properly. So that's not really in the cards for this, but that's pretty much what now a record is, a promotional item for your tour.
That's it.
I basically just, you can go here for free. Spotify, YouTube has all the songs. I have 4 videos up that I produced and directed a couple of them. I worked, you'll hear some of the production's great. I use different engineers, but there's a guy named Tim Janssens who's an award-winning film composer, who's an amazing engineer as well. He co-produced a few songs with me, and which lends itself to the depth. He'll say, "Hey, listen to all the different parts I added to this." They go, "Holy crap!" And they're so subtle, but they add so much depth to the record.
Wow, dude, you got to come back to this show anytime in the future. Chuck, you've got one hell of a story, and man, it can't stop on just one day. I mean, if Joe Elliott can come talk to me 9 times, so can you. Yeah,
at 30 minutes to cover. How long I've been doing this? 40 years, I think.
See what I'm saying?
I've albums, and I've worked with a lot of iconic people, and I'm constantly being told, when I tell my little stories, "Oh yeah, I went and auditioned for Sam Hagar when I was 18," or Gene Simmons can balance stuff on his face, or all these different stories I have. They go, "You know what? Why don't you write a book?" Right. I've been thinking about it, and there's a lot of stories to tell. It might involve throwing a few people under the bus, which I'm not real big doing, but I think people want to hear that stuff. They want to know about what really is going on. And if you want to know what was really going on with Quiet Riot, we had a documentary that was to only air for a couple weeks on Showtime, but they aired it for 2 years because it was so popular. And that really shows, all the warts and everything about being in a band and us losing Kevin when he passed and then trying to get it back going. I think people might find that pretty interesting. We'll never hear There's No Way Back. But yeah, I think a book might be in my future. There's a bunch of other people I've tried to say, "Hey, you should write a book, make it, and encourage them to do that, just so people can really get the depth behind, these stories are forgotten about. If I sit in a circle of my peers, I hear, they'll start telling their stories, which trigger the brain cells come alive. Oh yeah, that reminds me, blah, 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 blah. Come up with these great stories. Somebody should do a program where you just sit in the round with guys from the 80s and talk about the days and the different crazy stuff that happened, the Spinal Tap moments, the craziness with the ladies, the craziness with, the shows, things that have happened on stage, off stage, on the bus, in the hotels, on top of the bus, wherever. So, I think that would be an interesting program.
I totally agree with you. Man, come back to this show anytime. The door is going to be open for you, Chuck.
Hey, really nice talking to you, Arrow. Thank you so much for having me on.
Will you be brilliant today, okay?
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, sir.
The name of the album is Chuck Wright's Sheltering Sky. Yes. It's not Wright, a solo album. It's called Chuck Wright Sheltering Sky because I have so many friends on it, and it's really a project-type album with a bunch of great musicians. I'm just the guy steering the boat.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But your vision, though. Look what you did. You created a united collection of artists that have come together as one. I mean, you brought them all together.
Well, yeah, that's true. And to my ultimate surprise, I woke up to the news that I'm being considered for a Grammy for the album.
How about that?
And when the record first came out, I found out that I won Best Instrumental and Best Video for Weight of Silence, which is the opening track at the Rock Music Alliance Awards, and Tony Kaye from Yes presented the award.
Oh my God.
I didn't get nominated. I was up against Joe Satriani and John Five and won. So it's just create art. That's all I can tell people. Don't try to overthink it and try to be like anybody. Just do your thing, man. If you're out there writing, just do your thing.
That's it. Oh my God, that's a perfect way to just kind of wrap it up. There's your crescendo right there, man. Just do your thing.
Just do your thing.
You be brilliant today, okay, sir?
Okay, you too. Enjoy your day.